years ago, it was at a meeting of the Sonoma County Human Rights Commission. We had been building up to this issue for several weeks. It involved a case that happened in the city of Sonoma where a young man had been attacked. There was a debate between local law enforcement as to whether it should be classified as a hate crime. The end result was that the parents were not only unhappy but livid against law enforcement. They had a stack of supporters who were willing to take this as far as they thought they could take it. Nobody was happy. It was an extremely volatile situation. They had come to have an airing at the commission. I talked with Steve Freitas and we asked that could somebody from the sheriff's office come and talk, or at least be there to help referee. The person they sent was Rob Giordano. I had never met Rob. And I kind of sat back and said, well, I'll run the meeting, but good luck. Because I didn't see a way out of this. These were angry people. I gotta tell you, I'm not impressed easily, and I was impressed that night. He knew what to say. He was honest. He said something you don't hear a lot. I'm not gonna say just from the police department, but from any public figure. He got up and probably the first thing he said was that he had studied the situation, he was familiar with it, and then these 4 words: we made a mistake.
Wow.
He talked about that for a couple of minutes, and I will tell you that it completely diffused the anger. It made people willing to sit down and talk about what had happened and what could be done in the future. And by the end of the evening, all the parties were talking. The anger went away. The situation melted.
Nice.
So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our about-to-be interim Sonoma County Sheriff, Rob Giordano.
Morning. Morning. Thanks for the kind words, Judy. I have to say that she protected me as the chair. You know, it takes a lot to run a meeting, especially a very angry meeting, and Judy was always very good at holding the line and keeping the exchange fair. And I've been in many meetings where it wasn't like that, so I really learned to appreciate that. So we miss her in that role. I've been in law enforcement for 28 years. Been 21 years here at the sheriff's office. I've seen and done a lot of different things. A lot of my career in investigations. Really all I'm going to say about myself. I'll answer any questions you have. I want to talk about how law enforcement has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. And there's one thing that's really changed the world for us. And I'm curious if anybody here knows what that might be.
Social media?
Very good on the first try. If I talk too loud, yell at me. I'm starting to get excited now. Yeah, so it basically comes around social media, but here's the issue. 10 years ago, first 18 years of my career, everybody cared about what I was doing, but this is how they cared. Were they safe? Was their car broken into? Was the community safe? They weren't really concerned about how they got to safety. They were concerned about as long as we were taking care of that, so if the community was safe, everything was fine. Last 10 years, they want to know what we're doing every minute. So how do you do that? Why do you do this? What are you doing now? Why aren't you here? It's been a blessing because people are more involved than we do, and we haven't adapted fast enough, right? It's been a hard learning curve for law enforcement to get people in the door to learn what's going on. It's why we do more and more things like this. All kinds of community education. And social media is the way of the world today, and it's how we can communicate with way more people. So if one deputy can only touch so many people, but social media can touch thousands of people. Along those lines, I'm sure some of you are familiar with the Cali task force that came out of the county, and there were recommendations made from the task force from the sheriff's office. One of those recommendations was a community engagement liaison, somebody at the sheriff's office's job is just to reach out to the community. We didn't have that. We barely had a press information officer because that wasn't in our mission, basically. So out of that recommendation, we got a position, the community engagement liaison, which manages the community engagement for the sheriff's office. It includes a CSO who does presentations. It includes, we have a PIO who works with them, press information officers, a sergeant. But today with me is Misty Harris. She is our community engagement liaison, and she does these things and sets these things up. And I just wanted to give her a second to talk about how she likes her new job.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for having me this morning. I'm really thrilled to be here. This is cutting edge for law enforcement across the nation, really, as Rob has mentioned, as the culture has changed, as our society has changed, and technology has changed. We really are doing a lot more face-to-face reaching out and reaching out from a technology basis. So our program that we're developing right now really consists of 3 components. And the first is this sort of action. It's more general outreach. It's going to meetings, it's going to events, it's meeting people, really connecting on a one-on-one basis with each other. The second component is topic specific. And so immigration policy is what we're working on right now. This is an example of some of the work that we're doing. This is a 1-page fact sheet, English on one side, Spanish on the other, to really just break down simply what is our immigration policy. What do we do, what do we not do? Because there's a lot of misinformation out there, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of excitement. And so what we're trying to do is break through that and say, very simply, this is how it works in the sheriff's office. So we're going to be taking on these more specific work plans based on a particular topic or issue. As they come up, we're going to hear what's going on in the community and prioritize how we should be working on our education efforts. And the third component is in response to a critical incident. And so that is when something happens that requires, something scary, something awful, something that really could be divisive for the community. It's a rapid response to get information out there. Probably the best example is an officer-involved shooting. Get the information out there, what happened, why, be in the community, learn who's really affected, who's really, who really wants to find out more about that, and make sure that we're out there and we're with them and we're sharing the information as much as we can, as quickly as we can. So that's sort of a brief summary of what I'm doing. And I'm very thrilled to be here, and we really have a lot of support top down. Everybody is really excited to start to be more open and really get out there a lot more. So it's a pretty awesome place to be right now. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lucy. Yeah, different planet. I started in the job, we didn't even think about things like that. That wasn't what the issue was. And today, it's all we think about. It's so much the nature of the beast, the communication aspect of it. Again, mixed blessings. We had to adapt, took us time to get to it. The positive is you get to interact. I'll tell you right now, the first 10 years of my career in the middle of the night at graveyard, I didn't see regular people. I saw people commit crimes all the time, right? It was negative, 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 negative. So these events, these type of things with the community gets the deputies a chance to see people and talk to them. Remember what they're doing for whom, right? That other piece of the puzzle. Because that, you really do get one side focus that people do not call us to say hello. That's not what the job is, right? And that's okay, that's what we sign up for, but you sometimes lose track of that. You spend too many years doing that. So it's good to have this mixture too. And frankly, the other big thing is every single time I talk to somebody, I learn a little bit about what they're looking for and what they want. And it can focus our attention in different directions, But after a while, when you hear the same thing 3 or 4 times, like, hey, maybe we're not addressing this issue well enough if we keep hearing that same thing. So what I want to say now is, what topic would you like to talk about? Give me a topic.
Olero.
Olero, okay. Olero is the auditor at the sheriff's office. It is. So out of the Cali task force came a civilian oversight recommendation. So civilian oversight, they hired a man, his name is Jerry Threet. It's the Independent Office of Law Enforcement, sorry, it's hard. Independent Office of Law Enforcement Review and Outreach. I got it, all right. That's what IOLERO stands for. His job, one of his tasks, is to review our internal investigations and audit them. Right, wrong, thorough enough, not thorough enough. We do all of our own internal work. Every law enforcement agency in the country, or most law enforcement agencies in the country do, I should say most, not all. He gets those reports. He can take complaints for us. He reviews the investigation that we've done in it, and he sends a finding back of, I disagree, I agree, I think you should do more. So the reality of that kind of an audit is, what do you think? Do you like it or not?
Don't want
No, that's a trick question. It was change. Of course we don't like change. We're human. We hate change. After we get through the change, actually, it's really good to have somebody look at your work. It actually is, because we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Having someone to look at your work and say X, Y, or Z, whether we agree or not, it's to start to look at things that maybe we didn't look at, right? So there is always a value to that. A lot of agencies use different forms of audits. Frankly, before Jerry was ever in the picture, we paid an attorney to review the last 13 years of our shootings to see what we could do better or worse and that kind of stuff. So we do audits like that all the time. So this new program is actually something that can be very valuable to us. Honestly, right now, we're still working through growing pains. He's learning his role. We meet once a month to discuss how this is working, how that's working. But I'll tell you this, we've had many cases we agree on. And of those cases we agree on, some of them are him saying, you didn't do enough, or you did this wrong, and us saying, yep, we didn't do enough, and we did this wrong. Some of those are him saying, you guys did fine, and us saying we did fine. And a couple of those we disagree with, we're like, no, can't do that, it wouldn't work that way. And we just work through that. It's okay to disagree, but it's opinions. And he'll actually put out a public report. He's working on his first one, so you can see a public report of how many of our complaints he gets, what the general categories of them are, what the general findings were. We're working together right now to make that report out. So that's the IOLERO program. All in all, I think you're going to see it more and more in law enforcement. I mean, it's kind of where the future is. There's agencies been doing it for years. Some agencies have their own outside investigators, civilian oversight investigators like San Francisco that do the work. So we're not in that ballpark yet. But yes?
Does he go beyond officer-involved shootings?
Yes, he does all, well, let me rephrase that. He has access to all complaints, any complaint at all, which, to give you some idea of the numbers, we get about 60 citizens complaints a year. 60 citizens complaints a year. Which, if you think about it, there's 750 sheriff's office employees, 1,100 people in the jail at any given minute, 100,000 calls per service a year. We get 60 citizens complaints. You read the paper, you wouldn't think that, right? A little different picture. All the millions of lawsuits for all the bad things we've done, there's like 6 or 7 pending. In law enforcement, that's really not very bad. And I'm not saying we weren't wrong in some of them, I'm saying that it's few. When you look at the overall numbers, it's not bad. One's too many, I get that, but the context isn't quite portrayed truthfully in the media when you look at the bigger picture. But he has access to all the complaints. He chooses to look at bias, use of force, constitutional violations. Then he can spot check other ones as he sees fit. But we actually gave him access to our internal affairs system so he can just look at the case or pull the document that he needs.
Is there any interaction or cooperation between IOLERO and the people who work with SRPD? I've forgotten his name.
I'm not aware of any SRPE cooperation with IOLERO. Yeah, he's really just tasked with the sheriff's office work. He's presented to other cities and other places, but right now it's just with the sheriff's office.
First of all, I'd like to compliment you on your Facebook presence, because I did it through somebody else's feed, but I see it, and I'm also on Nixle. So yesterday, that bank robbery, I got a picture of that guy. I was looking for it.
You catch him, I'll buy you breakfast. You don't have to catch him, just point him
I
out.
have a hard question, though.
Okay.
And I don't know if how much is on the surface here, but do Black Lives Matter?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What was the question?
Do Black Lives Matter?
Absolutely.
And I don't mean this, I know sometimes this is an inflammatory way to say it, but every life matters. And it shouldn't be inflammatory to say that, but people take it that way. The Black Lives Movement took it that way. The reality is we care about everybody. And as much as I understand those things happening all over the country, and I'll tell you right now, bad things happen in this world. Different law enforcement agencies, different communities, police, dramatically different. It is a different world throughout the country, so it's very important to get to know your agency and how they do things and what their rules are. think you'd be quite impressed with, frankly, California in general. They have a very high standard of policing. It doesn't mean things go wrong. Things do go wrong. And we fire people. A little too often, actually. Yes?
So follow-on question to that, how are you doing with staffing? How's head count for officers in the field? Because I know those two topics have been related.
Yeah, so staffing-wise, we've been fighting a staffing battle for a couple of years now. Part of it's attrition, part of it was a contract problem. And let me be real clear that there's a whole different view. There's the issue that law enforcement makes a lot of money, they make enough money, right? Totally get it, I think we get paid well. But you either keep paying my deputies well enough or they just leave and go somewhere else, right? So it doesn't, you can complain about how much they make, but if everybody else is paying them more than we are, then we're gonna lose the good ones. So that's why it's not so much about it is a good job, it does pay well, it does have its challenges, but you have to be competitive. So the contract thing hurt us for the first time ever. We had people leaving the sheriff's office and nobody leaves the sheriff's office, not other than for retirement. I'm sorry, I haven't looked at you guys, I apologize. I'm gonna try and be more responsive. But so staffing is still a huge issue for us. Part of it was cuts. All that stuff compiled. We are now turning the corner. We are down to, and please don't quote me on the number, it changes so frequently, but I think we're down to about 10, 12 vacancies, deputy sheriff. I want to say we're 14 correctional deputy. We're short LPs, legal processors. We're still short other areas of the department as well, but that's better than it's been in a long time. So we are making that difference. We're catching back up over the last couple of years. And the big problem with that is, it takes a long time to hire somebody in law enforcement. You can't just hire somebody off the street, hand them a gun and say, go to work. So, it takes months to get them through the process, right? They go, if you've never been in the job, you go to an academy for 4 months, then you get in a patrol car and you're trained in a patrol car with another deputy, you never get a moment alone for 4 to 6 months, then you're on your own and we still watch what you're doing because you're still brand new and you're on probation. And even then, at year 2, you're not half as effective as someone in year 5. In so many ways. Yes?
You've got 750 people in the sheriff's department. How many of them are actually out in the field doing some of the police work?
And you think
and of that, how many of those are in West County on any given shift?
That's a great question.
And then they're in your house.
You think that's an easy question? That's really not. Okay, so follow me through these numbers. I'm going to dazzle you with my little bit of math skills. 250 deputy sheriffs. Those are the guys who carry guns, drive patrol cars. I'm one of those. So there's management in there too. But gun-toting law enforcement, 250. 60 of those are part-time, work in the courts. 210 roughly, again, don't quote me on these numbers, they change daily. It's actually ridiculous how big we are, how much just keep up. 210 roughly correctional deputies. Don't carry guns, wear the uniforms, work in the jails. Right here in so let's take the county right now, Sonoma County. We're just going to take the central county. We're going to forget about the valley. We're going to forget about the river and the coast. How many deputies are working today, right now, on the street in the central part of Sonoma County? I need a guess. I'm not giving you the secret. I see 4 back here. Give me another guess.
7.
That's closer.
6.
Nope. Closer. Farther. Not. Who said 9?
9.
Very good. 9. 9's minimum staffing for the central part of the county. That's from Cloverdale, the county line, down to Marin, out as far as Los Gilicos in that area, and out west, not to Guerneville. It actually is just the Sebastopol area and down through Bloomfield and stuff. So we stop at about a couple miles short of Guerneville going that way. Those other places I'm talking about are separate zones with more deputies. But just to give you an idea, about here are 9. So to answer your question, in West County, 2. That's what it comes down to. And we were successful because of teamwork, right? We could move bodies all over the place by any minute. So if something happens here in West County right now, I could have 10 deputies here in less than 5 minutes. Because I got people coming from the south, they got to come from the north, they got to come from the Guerneville substation. We'll bring them from the valley over the hill, we'll bring Sebastopol PD, we'll bring Petaluma up. That's how law enforcement works. It's a giant team. And we just move people around. It's all about communications and skill sets and where you put the people to do it. So, yes?
You guys do coincident training with the CHP so that you guys get used to working with each other? Because I see you rolling in on the same kind of stops when something hairy goes on. You guys are all there.
Yeah, it's a great question. So in California, like I said before, California policing standards are pretty high. We have what's called peace officer standards and training. It's a commission in California that regulates. It's the regulating agency for police departments in California, or law enforcement in general, CHP, cops, all. Not all states require that. California, you don't have to be a post agency. We can choose not to be. The sheriff can choose not to be and just run outside of that arena. Nobody does that because you get all kinds of liability protection for being part of post and following post rules. But what you get with that is standardized training across the board. So everybody has that one basic minimum level. And then additionally, locally in the county, we do mutual trainings together and stuff like that. So CHP handles all the traffic out here, but that's another example of more bodies, right? CHP will come back us up, we back them up. There's park rangers out there with guns. All these people work together to make that stuff happen if there's an issue. Yes?
Can the county be considered a sanctuary county in deed rather than in name?
So I paused because I don't know that I understand the deed versus name question, but I can explain our whole immigration perspective and maybe answer that question.
Well, I don't think Sonoma County has been called a sanctuary county.
Gotcha.
But does it practice sanctuary type aspects to it?
Totally gotcha. So here's the answer to that. Nobody can figure out what sanctuary is right now. This is the problem, is that the legal definition versus what people are doing is very hard to grasp. And let me explain that a little bit, because immigration is a really interesting issue. So yeah, Sonoma County is doing things that places would call sanctuary. And they are doing other things that places would not call sanctuary. So let me talk about Sheriff's Office policy a little bit, because that's probably the best place to start on immigration. So the first thing is we don't have a position on immigration. We have a position on community safety. So 28 years I've been a cop. It's never, ever been okay for me to ask you if you're a legal or illegal immigrant here in this country. It has been against the rules, and I could get disciplined for it. Who can tell me why? 28 years ago, do not ask that person their residency. Why can't they do that? So remember, community safety is my goal, right? So, if I have an undocumented immigrant who was just robbed and hit over the head with a bottle, I need them to call me. Because if I don't get that call, I don't catch the bad guy goes and hits somebody else over the head. Maybe another undocumented Arab, maybe another person, right? My community's not safe. Undocumented or not, you're a human in my community and I need to protect you. That is our overarching goal, okay? So it's never been okay for me to ask that question. It's always been against the rules because we are local law enforcement. Now, over the years, our cooperation with ICE has changed. Today, at the Sheriff's Office, if ICE calls us, let me go back a little bit. We talked about law enforcement being a team, right? We talked about this teamwork aspect and how important it is. So, there is no law enforcement agency that doesn't cooperate with each other, except ICE. It's because one of the few law enforcement agencies that conflict with our mission. Because we go back to the same thing, right? They're enforcing civil immigration law, so they're taking people to jail because of their status in the country. I'm not, I can. So what the current status at the Sheriff's Office, has been this way for years actually, is that if ICE calls us, they're another law enforcement agency in the country that we all swear an oath to, and they need help getting John Smith. If John Smith is a criminal, not an undocumented immigrant, a criminal, criminal violations, California state law or federal violent crimes, if they are a criminal, we will go with ICE to get them on one condition. The condition is that ICE will not take anybody else in the house. They're only after their one target. And then we will help them. If they say they can't, they will take more, then we don't help them. So it's been like that for years because of our unique conflicting relationship and the mission value changes. The Sheriff's Office is very unique because the place that we cooperate, so every law enforcement agency in Sonoma County, that's how they do it. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I don't know if they'll work with ICE at all, but none of them will cooperate more than we do. How's that? Let me say it that way. Everybody has that same line. It's just the way we've done business forever. You have to. The difference with the Sheriff's Office is we have a jail. So we cooperate at the jail side, and this is where the sanctuary question comes up, right? There are places that say they're sanctuary cities or sanctuary counties, and they don't cooperate at all. We cooperate on the jail side. Let me explain to you how we cooperate. So everybody comes into custody, gets their fingerprints done. When they get their fingerprints done, they go through the national databases, and it goes all over the country to all the law enforcement agencies, including the FBI. ICE and Homeland Security watches those fingerprints, and they can see who's in custody. If it's the first time the person's ever been fingerprinted, nobody knows anything. Literally, John Smith fingerprints go all over the country. ICE sees John Smith prints. They can't do anything with it because it's just a person who's been fingerprinted for the first time. It's not uncommon. Lots of people do not have their prints in the system. But if ICE has somebody in their system, if John Smith was deported and came back, if John Smith is somebody they're looking for, our print, when we catch John Smith, will match back there. When that print matches, if they want John Smith, they send us a fax that says, will you tell us his release date? Our level of cooperation is we send the release date back if we have one at the time. The reason we do that is we think it's our obligation to cooperate with ICE, and we think it makes our community safer if we send them the information of people that are in jail and have committed other crimes. That's that level of cooperation that we think is appropriate. And frankly, that was set by the sheriff. The county can't decide that. That's the elected sheriff's position. We are currently revising the policy to narrow down what crimes we'll tell ICE about and what crimes we won't. So for example, currently if they ask, we tell. The new policy is going to be more if they ask and they have this kind of felony conviction or this kind of sexual conviction or something like that, then we'll tell. But if they have a traffic or something like that, we won't tell. So we're actually adapting because we're hearing from the community they want us to adapt. And we think it's fair, having watched the system work. But this is the most interesting part of this discussion I got to share with you. 08, 09, 2010, ICE take 1,000 people out of the jail a year. Come get them, take them all the time. This year, again, don't quote me, but I know I'm really close. They've asked us for 120 release dates this year, 7 months. They've asked us for 120 release dates. We've given them 80-something. And the reason we only give them 80-something is because when they ask, we don't know the date. And we don't send an answer back if we don't know the date. So if there is a date in the system, keep this in mind. If they have a date in the system, it's usually because they've already been convicted. So that plays into the piece of it. If you just got arrested on a charge, you don't have a release date yet because you haven't gone through the system. So of the 120, 80 of them had release dates. We sent the message back to them. We weren't tracking, because we don't hold them for them. We can't legally hold them. We were just releasing them and ICE was picking them up. We weren't tracking how many times ICE was coming to our facility and picking them up. We know of at least 24, somewhere between 24 and 80 they've picked up this year in 7 months. So put that in perspective, 1,000 people a year, 8, 9, 10, 11, and today we're somewhere between 24 and 80 out of Sonoma County Jail. And most of them, not all of them, most of them had serious criminal records to go with them. Yes?
And basically my question is, you mentioned that you're going to start deciding what level of offense qualifies for cooperation, traffic, I get everything else. Where does the citizenry that lives here have a say in that process? Does it have to be rape, or can it be because you almost killed somebody in a car accident?
Your say is right now.
Well, there's lots of people that aren't here now, so how do they get a voice?
No, well, let me say this first. My email address, you can find it on the web. I can leave a card with you. Email me. You can always email us and tell us what you think. We get it at these meetings. We go to lots of events like this and ask that question. We've been hearing from a lot of people and getting that, having them tell us what they want, but it's really all about this community engagement stuff. That's where we get that feedback. And that is the nuance of this, right? There are a lot of people who think that your third DUI, we should notify if they want to. There's some think you should never do DUI. There's some think that it doesn't matter what the crime is, you should never tell ICE. And the sheriff's position has been that that's just not safe for my community. Coupled with the fact that law enforcement cooperates with law enforcement. How many doing on time?
We're about done.
All right. Thank you so much for everything. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Rob. Would you mind staying after and answering a few more questions that folks have individual ones? I do have one more task for you.
Oh.
We have a highly illegal gambling operation going on. Don't reach for the money, but if you would grab one of the little paper tickets in there.
Yeah, somebody get a picture of that.
my new friend, 518-8391.
8391, there we go.
Rich and Rich, a good 20 bucks to spend on.
No cards. Last week we didn't have the tickets, this week we don't have the cards.
It'd be great.
Automatic win.
She wins.
She wins. Give her the money.
That's a default win.
Give her the money.
Give her the money.
Next week. We'll have a double drawing next week, but you get to pick before the second drawing. Is that fair?
So no gambling involved. That's good, Bill.
When you jump any Marty West?
Thank you for the,
It's not there. It's not there.
oh,
Well, nothing worked out today.
Marty Webb.
Wait till you enjoy the day, and Marty is in,
At the Scout Jamboree, so I do have one here. What did the 0 say to the 8? Nice belt. Ooh.
That's so bad.
Joe, lead us out.
Trails to you.